who haven't noticed, we are recording this. So thank you for your willingness to attend our presentation. Our presentation is the Pre-Health Bootcamp at Washington State University, a focused learning experience for incoming students and an opportunity for data collection. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Four of us are presenting from Washington State University, and each of us will have a different section, and we'll each introduce ourselves as we go along. So I'm Dr. Donald Allison. I'm the director of the Health Professions Student Center here at Washington State University, and I'm going to provide an introduction and context for the presentation. So in order to provide a context, I want to just start out with just a purpose statement for the universe, for our Health Professions Student Center. Our purpose statement here at the center is to promote and guide the development of student academic and professional growth and success in order to increase overall competitive aptitude for matriculation into a health profession or other program of student choice. Here at WSU, our Health Professions Student Center has basically, we're quite fortunate to generally have 7 staff, not counting myself. We have an administrative assistant, and then we have 6 advising and or specialist working individuals. And I'm not going to go over each of these individuals, but basically the way our breakout is that we have 2 people doing actual academic advising in our 2+2s and our 3-in-1 category. And then the other 4 are specialists who don't truly do academic advising, basically putting their toes right up to academic advising and then do all the specialty work within pre-health. And you can kind of see the breakdown of that here. I want to talk a little bit about the demographics of Washington State University, so you can kind of see the student population that we're working with. I'm going to concentrate on 2019. We don't have our data yet for 2020. This last year, the pandemic kind of put us behind a little bit in my collecting data. So I'm kind of for the center, so I'm going to concentrate just on the 2019 for the university as well. 2019 data for first-time freshmen at Washington State University. We had a little over 4,000 students, first-time freshmen, with 33% of those students being freshman minority and 31% of those being freshman first generation. We had about 1,100 students that are transfer students and another 124 returning students who had left Washington State University Pullman and came back. Now, when I'm talking about Washington State University, we actually have 5 campuses, and I'm just talking about the campus here at Pullman, Washington. Total student population here at Pullman is just over 18,000 students, with a total minority grouping of 32%. Now, that's important when we start looking at how many students we have here at the Health Professions Student Center. Here's a 3-year grouping of our students here at the Health Professions Student Center, with looking specifically at fall of 2019. We had a little over 3,000 students. You can kind of see the breakdown of those students based on the area of discipline that they're interested in. But you can see from fall of 2017, we came up from 2,700 students to 3,000 students. Now, this is just students that are active students, but we do see we also serve our students who are alumni. So we generally have another 100 or so students that are alumni that we serve as well. The alumni that we work with are generally actually students who are applying to professional school. When we look at the fall of 2019, I want to also look at the diversity indicators for 2019. We have about 25% of those students who are Pell Grant eligible, another 38% that are first generation, so more than the percentage that are first generation at WSU, and then 38% that are ethnic minority, again, a greater number than are at WSU. The annual boot camp that we're going to talk about shortly, this basically, we started the boot camp in fall of 2016, and we started with 400 students. That year we did do 2 boot camps. We did one in the fall and one in the spring. We did that again in 2017. 2018, we decided to just continue, just to do one every year. And as you can see, our numbers went up every year. which coincides basically with the number of students that we have every year at the university. Fall of 2020 was the first year we did an actual virtual boot camp, and we had over 800 students at our virtual boot camp. So this kind of shows you just the number of attendees that we have at the boot camp. Next, I want to introduce you to Becky Jewell, who will talk a little bit about evolution of our pre-health boot camp.
Thanks, Donald. Good afternoon. My name is Becky Jewell, and I'm a pre-health specialist within the Health Professions Student Center. I work with students interested in vet med, optometry, and allied health fields. So as many of you start to learn more about this boot camp program, which is really just a big orientation / programming for first semester students on campus. As you start to hear more about this program and maybe start to get creative and think about how you might bring a focused boot camp program of your own to your own institutions, I thought I would discuss, or I thought it might be helpful to discuss with you sort of how our program has evolved over the past few years. And our hope is that we can maybe provide some takeaways so that you don't have to go through the same sort of trial and error process that we did. Next slide, please. So let's begin with our very first program agenda back in 2016. We were obviously very excited and a little ambitious with our content and messaging. We may have gone just a little bit overboard and tried to relay to students sort of all the information that they could ever need to be successful as pre-health students in one sitting, rather than focusing our messaging on items that they would need to get them started on the right path. So let's take a look at this agenda. First of all, this program was a little over 4 hours long, which I think you'll all agree is too long for one sitting with a group of students. We tried to cover way too much information within that time frame. So some of the topics that we included the first year and then later eliminated can be seen in red here. So they included topics such as transitioning from high school to college, time management, branding, etiquette, communication, and relationship building or networking strategies. And while these are important topics, they're sort of broadly covered in our first year orientation. And they're also topics that should be covered one-on-one with our students during advising appointments based on individual student need. So in terms of messaging, as you think about adopting a program like this at your own institutions, we really suggest focusing your content on information that will be useful just to help students start strong rather than giving them all of the information that they could possibly need to succeed. Also, just logistically speaking, we held our first boot camp in our university's largest auditorium and had just about 400 students attend. Since it was such a long program, we decided we better feed them. So we provided lunch. And moving that many bodies to collect lunch was a nightmare. And also just getting that many large pizzas, because that's what you feed college students, in a car and then into the auditorium and cycling them through as students were coming in and out. Again, it took up way too long, and logistically it was a bit of a nightmare. So we don't recommend a full lunch service unless your university would anticipate way, way smaller numbers. In later years, providing this program, when we were still back in person, we did provide like fruit, granola bars, snacks, that kind of thing at the very beginning of the program for students to grab on their way in. And that was very well received. Students love free food. Then at the end of the day, in the 2016 year, after 3 hours of programming, we broke students up by interest area and did breakout presentations. Not surprisingly, we experienced a bit of attrition during the transition to the breakout presentations, which we did in separate classrooms. So at the end of the program, we could really tell that students were exhausted. We were exhausted. So it was just too long, and it was too much information all at once. Next slide, please. So we have continued to focus our messaging over the years, which is evident by looking at our 2020 agenda. So you'll notice this is a much more concise program. It was only 1 hour. Because this program occurred in the fall of 2020, as Donald mentioned, it was a virtual experience for students. We recorded the program and uploaded a video, which students then had a specific window of time to view. The presentation method was definitely different, but the messaging and the content wouldn't have changed whether it was virtual or in person. Each of the topics on this agenda really focused on helping students start off strong as they begin their undergraduate journeys as pre-health students. So even if they couldn't get in for one-on-one appointments with their pre-health advisor in like the very first few weeks of class, they were given resources to get started so they could begin gaining experience, getting involved, and take advantage of really important workshops. So the bootcamp also serves to introduce students to their pre-health advising community and let them know that, they're not alone as they begin this process of preparing for professional health programs. And then to discuss these topics that you can see on this agenda in a bit more detail, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Byron Gregory.
Good afternoon. My name is Byron Gregory. I am another one of the pre-health advisors and specialists here at WSU, Washington State University. I advise for pre-nursing, pre-nutrition, exercise physiology, and pre-pharmacy. And as Becky alluded to, I'll speak a little bit more about what our content creation and messaging was this upcoming or this past boot camp. If you would, next slide, please. All right, and speaking a little bit about that or starting that conversation, one of our big takeaways or main messages was embracing pre-health as a lifestyle and understanding what does this mean. So, I mean, all of us, of course, kind of with our job, we understand just how rigorous this pathway, how rigorous this track is for a lot of our students, especially as they hopefully matriculate into the professional programs that they choose, understanding the differences between themselves and maybe their peers, whether it be their teammates, their brothers or sisters in Greek life or other organizations, that their college experience is going to be their very own narrative, their very own adventure that's going to be unique to themselves, and understanding what those differences all are, what those rigors, what those responsibilities are going to be comparatively. And as you'll see there, we have a couple of the things or talking points I'll get into. The importance of grades, of course, GPA, conduct, resources, and gaining experience. Next slide, please. All right. And so going into that first or next biggest thing there, the importance of, we all know, of course, as advisors or specialists, the GPA matters. It's going to be huge, in their story and as they pursue, their aspirations in whatever pre-health field or whatever health professions field they're going after. And our boot camp, we may be seeing students from varying different experiences. Some for us are going to be college and the high school students or incoming freshmen who may have running start credits or prior college credits while they were in high school. Some may be straight off transfer students coming from a different college institution. And we want to emphasize or make sure that they understand or know that those grades, those scores matter. Whatever they're doing now or have done will follow them and will follow them into their application and beyond. And understanding the importance that starting strong is going to be huge so they can stay strong as they pursue their education and their goals. And of course, as we all know, right, it's easier for your GPA to fall and not always as easy to bring it back up. If you would, next slide, please. With that said, of course, we all know we want to support and be there for our students, to be resources, to be advocates for them. So of course, with all that was said in the previous slide, we don't want to come off as fear mongers. We don't want to leave our students with doubt, questioning, or negative thoughts about their pathway, their track, their choices in life, right? So another big thing, a big aspect of our boot camp is giving our students resources, as mentioned previously by Becky, things that will allow them to hopefully be successful in their academic pursuits and obviously, you know, pursuit of a professional school. Along with that, we try to outline the types of experiences and how to gain experience. And as what you'll see here, we just included a couple of different of our resources, our Academic Success and Career Center, our Center for Civic Engagement, where the students have the chance or opportunity to work or go outside and work alongside or in their community, our Undergraduate Research Center, giving those students opportunities to get into research, and many more resources available to them to help them in basically their college journey, their story, right? And then of course, experience going along with that, types of experience, gaining experience, understanding that not all knowledge or everything that they're going to get is going to come from the classrooms, right? We want them to get the opportunity to explore, expound upon themselves, to figure a lot of these things out, whether it be in their volunteering, their shadowing, whether it be extracurriculars, organizations they're a part of, all of those things can and will come to play within their application and can be a benefit in their story. Next slide, please. And then going along with that, another huge takeaway, of course, we all know, especially in this day and age, conduct. The impact on their applications, their employment, patients, coworkers, all of these things, we want them to be aware of and understand that it is or will be taken into account kind of moving forward. Understanding, emphasizing the reality that like a moment, you know, a screenshot, Instagram picture, social media, any of that stuff can play on their application. While their friends, while their peers may be hanging out at their, after game formal, different things like that, and posting all sorts of pictures, though how they are portrayed matters in their applications. Those things will follow them. Understanding that unfortunately, with all that said, there's going to be much less leeway or wiggle room comparative for them or their peers coming from whatever backgrounds they have. As a pre-health student, they have to be cognizant of that. Understanding who they are now or how are they presenting themselves now can and will be seen or may be portrayed in that application. And those things will matter. So those MIPs or minors in possessions or any of those little things that might be on the records, whether it be plagiarism or cheating or anything like that, those things can and will potentially follow our students or follow them in their application. So we just want to make sure we set our students up for success, allowing them to have the best chance to start with a stable and strong foundation moving forward. And to talk more about how our students interacted with our information, what we learned, I will pass it off to Lourdes, who will speak, my colleague Lourdes, who will speak more about our data and what we've learned from this.
Next slide, please. Good afternoon. My name is Lourdes Giordani, and I'm one of the pre-health specialists. I mainly work with pre-meds and pre-PAs. Lately, I'm also doing some PTs and pre-OTs, but I mainly work with the pre-meds and the pre-physician assistant. So what I want to do this afternoon is talk a little bit about the data that we have been collecting, what we collect, why we collect it, and what we have learned so far. Next one, please. So we collect some demographic, some academic, and campus knowledge data. This allows us to learn about our students' backgrounds, their health profession objective, and their knowledge of university resources. Bootcamp participants are provided a link for a pre and a post bootcamp assessment survey. They complete the pre-assessment before we begin the bootcamp presentations. And then they complete the post-assessment at the end of the bootcamp. The surveys were created using Qualtrics, and they include 11 identical multiple choice questions, except that the post-assessment includes an extra question, which is a text entry question. If you look at the slide, the table there breaks it down. So both have the same 9 multiple choice single answer question, and then again, a multiple choice, and one Likert, and then it's a post-assessment that has that text entry question. Next one, please. The survey was created in 2017. So you might remember that Becky mentioned, and Donald also had numbers for the students attending the 2016 boot camp. When we first did it, we did not have a survey. It was in 2017 that the survey gets created. Okay, the numbers that I'm going to be presenting today, the data really covers the years 2018 to 2020. So it's summarizing those years. A total of over 2,000 students responded to the questions in the pre-assessment survey, and close to 1,500 in the post-assessment. When you look at both, most of the respondents identified as female, over 80%, and most identified as white. The fact that we have such a large percentage of female respondents is really not surprising. This is following national trends that we're seeing in academia these days, where women today outnumber men in American colleges. The two tables that you see towards the lower part of the slide just gives you more details, how the students are identifying along racial and ethnic lines. Next one, please. Most respondents for both the pre and the post-assessment are classifying themselves as first-year students. That's not surprising, because that's the students that we really want to target, right? All those that are coming new to the university. But the boot camp is also attended by some transfer students, so they're not all going to be first-year students. When it comes to, and Byron in a sense mentioned some of that, but here I'm giving you the percentages. It's over 60% of the students that say that they're coming with some kind of college credits, whether it's AP, IB, college and high school, or Running Start. And again, over 40% in both pre and post assessment identify themselves as first generation. The survey gives them an actual sort of definition there, right? Neither parent has a college degree. So when we look at these numbers, one of the things that caught our attention is that at WSU Pullman as a whole, the office that keeps track of how many first generation students we have, for the Pullman campus as a whole, they're saying we have 32.2% are first generation. But our data is indicating that there's a higher percentage of students pursuing a health profession, right? They're in the pre-health tracks that are first generation. So this leads us to ask ourselves, are these first generation students attracted to the health professions because of employment prospects? Perhaps future research should examine the link between being first generation, economic background, and interest in a health profession as a career. So when you do surveys like this, right, the results will lead to further research, other questions, and they also, the results also tell us areas where we need to improve our survey, how we're asking questions. And with that second comment in particular, I want to focus back on the question of first year students. Some students may be classifying themselves as first year students because they're interpreting being first year as the first year that they started at Washington State Pullman campus, right? But they might be coming again as transfer student from other places and have credits that place them beyond the freshman year. So we probably have to go back and make more clear what exactly we mean by being a first year student. Next one, please. The other thing that the surveys reveal is, again, the three pre-health tracks that students are mentioning the most frequently that they're pursuing. And actually that also showed up in the data that Donald Allison showed us in the beginning. But in the both pre and the post assessment surveys in the boot camp, they also show up, and that's pre-nursing, pre-medicine, and pre-veterinary. The majors that were mentioned the most frequently, this is the major that I'm pursuing, are definitely connected to those tracks. So of course, the pre-nursing students, most of them are going to choose that they're pursuing nursing as a major, right? The pre-medicine students, biology is very common for those students, zoology, neuroscience, and for the pre-veterinary, animal science is a big draw for that, that population, as well as biology and zoology. So the point is that those majors very much relate to the pre-health tracks, those 3 pre-health tracks that are so frequently mentioned in these surveys. Next one. The information in the table that was showing you the 3 most common frequently mentioned pre-health tracks during the boot camp. This is just in graph form for those of you that like bars and, you know, instead of tables. It's just the same information in a different presentation. Those 3 longer lines, they're horizontal lines, again, pertain to pre-medicine, pre-nursing, and pre-veterinary. To the next one, please. So one of the areas that we're very interested is knowledge of university resources that can help the students. And of course, we view ourselves also as one of the, one of the resources that students have on our campus. So it's not just thinking about this office, but also we ourselves as advisors and specialists being important resources for the students. It's interesting that in the pre-assessment, we actually have a pretty high number of students, right, over 80% during the pre-assessment, saying that they know who their pre-health advisor is. So you might remember that Becky mentioned that the boot camp normally happens at the end of the first week of classes, right? By that time, they're still fairly new. Most of them are fairly new to our campus, but still over 80% say they know who their advisor is. Now that may very well be because the students have a summer orientation / registration that we call Alive. And during that, orientation registration, they get to meet, many of them get to meet who their actual pre-health advisor is. That's certainly true for the pre-nursing, speech and hearing, nutrition and exercise physiology students. They actually get to meet the pre-health advisor, because that person is also like their academic advisor. But many of them will also meet people like myself and Becky, because we have to give certain presentations when Alive is happening. During those presentations, we talk about our center and some of the services that we provide and so forth. So many of them, that's how they get to see us, even though we're not helping them to select classes for any of their majors. The other thing is that they're students that are very proactive. And even before they come for their summer registration, will reach out to us and try to talk to us over the phone. Now that we're using Zoom, they're doing it through Zoom. So that's another reason. And we are available during summer for our students, and we will engage with them. Even if they still have not registered, but they want to talk to us, we will engage with them. Notice that for the post-assessment, the percentage of students saying that they knew who their advisor is went up. Now it was 96, right? A little bit over 96%. And the way I interpret that is that when the boot camp is in person, all of us are there, right? The director and all of us advisors and specialists. So if students have any doubt as to who exactly is the advisor, it tends to be clarified, right? And they're able to put together the name and the face. So that could be why now the percentage may be a little bit higher. We are also interested in knowing whether the students know how to connect with us, right? And that's like how to make an appointment with us. So notice that in both the pre and the post assessment, on the methods, there are different ways, right, that we give them in the survey. How can you reach out and make an appointment with your advisor? The three that were mentioned most frequently was going to our webpage, and we have a link there to schedule appointments online with us. So that is frequently mentioned in both. Emailing the advisor and calling our office to schedule appointments. Those were the three. There's a little bit of a change in terms of the percentage, but it's not really a huge change. Those three were the most frequently mentioned. The other thing is we like to look at, so as Byron was talking about, that we mentioned the different kinds of experiences that you have to have. It's not just about gaining knowledge from books, but also engaging in different kinds of activities that allow you to learn about your profession, to develop other kinds of skills that are not necessarily coming directly out of books, right? So we like to ask them, and you're going to see this in the next slide, but please still don't move there, Donald. Let's stay with this one. In the next slide, I'm going to show you the different kinds of experiences that we're focusing on, and we ask the students, where do you go, right? Where would you go to find information, resources that can help you gain that kind of experience? For instance, doing community service, volunteering. Well, it doesn't matter whether we're looking at the pre or the post assessment. The Health Profession Student Center is mentioned as, as one of the top places where they can find information. In the pre-assessment, we're mentioned as one of the top 3 offices or resources that can assist them. In the post-assessment, for some things we were mentioned in the top 3, but there are 2 areas where we dropped to in the fourth ranking, and you'll see that in a minute. Okay. So again, during the boot camp, we do provide information about some of the other campus offices, not just exactly everything that we do. We also will mention some of the other offices. The next slide, please. So if we look closer at the pre-assessment and university resources, we want to find out how many would say, that they'll go to the Office of Student Involvement, or they're going to go to the Center for Civic Engagement, the Health Profession Student Center, or there are other kinds of offices that we also mention, right? Other category that we want to find out is extracurricular, and that would involve things like, getting involved in athletic clubs, intramurals, and student cultural clubs, and so forth. Leadership, which is another important quality that many of the health professions are emphasizing greatly these days. Where do you go for employment, and where do you go for research? So those are the 5 kinds of experiences, types of experiences, right, that we are focusing on. We could add others in the future, but for now, these have been our top 5. So if you notice, like I said, the Health Profession Student Center is mentioned as one of the top 3 in the post-assessment. And in 3 of those 5, we are actually ranked as the 2nd place where they would go to find that information. Okay. Next one. When we look at the post-assessment, they still are ranking us high, right? But if you look at the extracurricular and you look at employment, that's where we drop to the 4th place in those 2. And that's because, again, during the boot camp, they are going to hear about other resources that they might have not heard before, or not heard as much as we mentioned during the presentation. So the UREC is our Undergraduate Recreation Center. The CC, the Center for Civic Engagement, works at establishing connection with all these different agencies in our area, and sometimes even beyond our area, so the students can do volunteering, including even virtual volunteering once the pandemic hit, but also internships. So It's a pretty popular office on campus too. The Handshake is an online system. Some of you may know about it, where students can look for jobs, employment, not just within the university, but beyond the university. WSU Jobs, that's the website where anyone, not just students. In fact, they now, once they went into Handshake, students should be looking for employment through Handshake. WSU Jobs is for people in the community, us that are already employed in the university, right? People from outside that are looking for jobs within the university. The Daily Evergreen is the campus newspaper. The Center for Undergraduate Research, that's an office, again, that tries to get students, provide information so students who want to do research can get involved and learn how to go about doing that. Now, some of you, when you look at something like that, you may be asking, why would they go to the Health Professional Student Center? Even in the post-assessment, notice that they mention coming to us for research, right? And the same thing when you look at something like leadership, they come to us quite a bit, right, to find information about this. So one of the things that I want to mention is that throughout the year, we offer over 30 workshops throughout the year to our students that try to address, again, how do you go about gaining experience, right? So some of these topics that you see here, in all those different workshops, besides the one-on-one appointments that students have with us, we will address some of these topics. It's just that in the boot camp, this tends to be addressed within the context of all the things that you have to do to become a competitive applicant, and how the doing of these activities is part of the lifestyle that Byron mentioned. If you're going to be a pre-health student, you have to embrace that idea that, you know, you're not going to be, you are a regular student at the university, but more is expected. And that's where adapting that idea of pre-health as that lifestyle comes in. Next one. So some of the differences between the pre and the some of the differences between the pre and the post assessment may be due to the learning that occurs during the boot camp, right? So I have to move a little bit faster through this, but I just want to say that one of the things that we need to investigate is, does a boot camp add new knowledge? Does it reinforce knowledge, or does it clarify? Does it make more clear knowledge that is gained during a live, or does it do all three? In other words, we have to tease apart better what exactly the boot camp is doing. Next one. Do we have time, Donald? Okay, so for the last question in the post-assessment, the text entry, I did a word cloud there. And what's important here about the text entry, what the students wrote tends to fall into three, can be classified as either positive feedback, category 1, changes students are suggesting, or negative feedback, or questions that the students are asking us. When it comes to the positive feedback, what was mentioned the most was that they found the boot camp to be helpful, had lots of information, good information, and they liked the video section. So we did not have a video section before. It's just that when we had to go online because of the pandemic, instead of having a live student panel, the students, we had students from the different tracks like pre-dental, pre-veterinary, that were at the university or alumni, creating a little video clip for us. So at the end of the post-assessment, students could go to the link that they wanted to see and listen to a student talking about their journey as that particular pre-health student in that track here at WSU. So that went very well with the students. They really like that. Next one. That word cloud was transformed into a horizontal bar graph. Donald, the next slide. And that's the same information, but in graph form. We're going to have to move a little bit quicker because we want to go to the breakout rooms in a minute. Next one, Donald. Changes that the students suggested, and in a sense, Becky alluded to this. Becky said that they found it to be too long. Yes, that's one thing that the students did mention. Too much information, this is a suggestion, break it down into different workshops and give it over a period of time. Again, they want it to be more interactive. There's a lot of information, but they want it more interactive. But notice that there are also some negative comments, right? It's useless, not super helpful, and so forth. So for us, when we look at these, we have to take this information into account to see how we can improve what we're doing. Next one. In terms of the questions that they ask us, because remember, in that text entry, they can also ask us questions. We could divide those into these three categories that I came up with, right? The more philosophical, reflective one, and this would be an example, is it all worth it in the end? So this is like the student that sees all of this, because before they come to the boot camp, they hear about this, they hear about that, but now it's all put together. So yes, the boot camp can make many students feel overwhelmed, but it can also make students think, oh, is this really going to be all worth it for me in the end? And that's where that question comes in. What we have to do when we see a question like that, again, thinking about our boot camp, how will we address that? Can we address this better in the boot camp or during our advising? So we don't want to just collect questions and let them sit. We want to take these questions and use them to refine what we're doing. Some of them ask questions that are like general advising questions, like again, what's the best time to schedule an appointment with a pre-health advisor, right? Perhaps that we can include more information about that in the weekly electronic newsletter that we send to the students. Other questions are very specific to their major or what they're doing. And that's, I gave different examples there. Okay. So again, the thing that we need to do now, this I have to say, it's during this presentation that we really sat down and started looking very carefully at all this information. So what we have to do, this is a process for us. What we have to do is keep looking more closely and fixing the survey, making it a more powerful tool so that we know how to improve our boot camp. And I think that now Donald has to say something about the breakout rooms. Oh, sorry.
It's me, that's okay.
It's
Hello.
Becky.
So as you all kind of think about how to take this type of program, how it could benefit your students at your institutions, we would recommend 4 sort of broad takeaways. First and foremost, triage information, only the most crucial. Include only the most crucial that you think will help students start strong. Don't give them all the information in the whole world. And with that, sort of keep it short. You can triage information and still have it be too long. So time can always get away from us. So really, really focus on length of program. Food and prizes are appreciated. Students love getting free stuff, and it really helps keep the energy positive. And then speaking of positivity, really try to keep the message positive. Sometimes that can be really hard when we're talking about things like conduct and GPA and the kind of heavy things. But I think the overall message really shouldn't be to scare students or dissuade them, from pursuing their dreams, but rather let them know that they have a community on campus that's there to help them succeed. Go ahead and click the next slide there, Donald. I think we're going to just very quickly bounce into breakout rooms. We're going to have 3 different ones: an administrative breakout room with Dr. Allison, who's going to just talk a little bit about this type of program at the administrative level. Lourdes Giordani will talk a little bit more about data collection and how that works, and how we use that data. And then Byron and myself will talk host a breakout room regarding content creation. So I'll go ahead and open those rooms now. You can find which one you want to choose at the bottom of your screen. So go ahead and just pop into whichever breakout room you like.
If you guys want to join any of the breakout rooms, you can join them. The session is going to end in the breakout rooms. If you guys have questions about the breakout rooms, let me know, but you should be able to pick whichever breakout room you want to go to.
Sorry, I was multiplexing with counseling a student and listening in.
Oh, no worries. Yes, they open some breakout rooms, so the session will be ending in the breakout room. So if you want to visit one of them and learn any more about the 3 different areas, administration, data collection, or content creation, you can do that.
I clicked on Byron's content creation, but it didn't take me anywhere.
Let me see. You want to go to content creation?
Yeah, if you can.
Yep, I can put you in there
Thank you.
to get an invitation. Lori, do you have any questions or want me to assign you to a breakout room?